Hey guys, this is Smithy. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is a very special video because we're going to talk about eyeshadow palettes, and today we're going to talk about my favorite eyeshadow palettes from my favorite high-end makeup brand. We already have like one part already up on this channel, so do check it out. I already did like a drugstore version of this, and a indie makeup version is yet to come. So without further ado, let's begin. So in no particular order, let's begin with Patrick Beauty. And Patrick, oh my god, I fell in love with this eyeshadow palette as soon as I used it. And I'm talking about my Patrick Rose 2 eyeshadow palette. This is the second palette that he's come out with. These tones are like just me in a palette. I love my pinky browns, and these rosy tones are so nice. As soon as I put any of these shimmers like on my eyes pops. Like the brown in my eyes, like it's like a very different brown as compared to the brown that I have on my eyes. Like I really love this eyeshadow palette. This is truly special. For any special occasion, I definitely pull out this, and the mattes blend so beautifully with each other, and they just blend by itself. Like a tap on the eyes is all that you need. I have a dedicated video using this palette on my channel. I've done several videos actually using this palette. This is definitely my favorite Patrick palette. Okay, next let's talk about Too Faced. Now, out of the Too Faced palette that they have come out with, obviously the tin pan packaging are my favorite without a doubt, and I feel like this palette was truly unique by itself because they come out with like the same color story again and again. Either it's going to be like a gingerbread palette or like a Too Faced natural nudes, which also I absolutely love, but this truly is like my favorite, and this is the pumpkin spice palette. This definitely gave me so much of like fall vibes, but subtle also. It's so pretty and so gorgeous. These shimmers, these mattes, all is so beautiful on the eyes. You can definitely go warm tone, cool tone, neutral tone with this palette, and that's the best part about it. This being a colorful palette, but it is neutral and like wearable at the same time. I love this palette. Like love is an understatement. I definitely want Too Faced to go on like a similar route as per like the color story is concerned and create like more unique shadows. I feel like people are still like looking out for Too Faced. It's just that they're not delivering it. Okay, next let's talk about Urban Decay. Now, out of the palettes that I've tried from Urban Decay, I feel like the palette that I'm going to talk about is not available anymore, but I feel like this was such a hit, and for a reason. I'm talking about their Born to Run palette. I have traveled with this so much. Nowadays, I don't use it, but this truly was like my favorite palette from them. And for a reason, I love these tones. I still, like, this was a gorgeous palette. I would love for Urban Decay to go again in this route and create like different shades, a little more on like a unique color story, similar to the indie makeup vibe, I would say. But this was so good. Like when this came in, when colors were introduced from Urban Decay, I feel like people were nuts over this, and it's high time for them to recreate this kind of makeup vibe in their brand, and I love it. I love this palette. This undoubtedly is like my favorite palette from Urban Decay. Next, let's talk about Norvina brand inside Anastasia, and my favorite Norvina palette without a doubt. If you know me, it is gonna be the Norvina 5 palette, and I love my purples, and this is like my favorite purple palette that I have in my collection, and this is just stunning. Like you definitely can go more like neutral. You definitely can go like punchy purples or like on the mauvey tones also. It's such a good quality. I have like several times just dipped into these shades like as a topper one and done shades, and like maybe like one matte on the crease, and this is such a beautiful sheen on the eyes. These mattes are so beautiful on the eyes. I love, again, pinky browns are my weaknesses, and this quad is like my favorite place to be in. I love this. I love these tones. For a cool tone purple look, oh my god, yeah. Again, I've done a look using all these palettes on my channel. If you want to try out, definitely give it a search and you'll definitely find it. This is my favorite palette. Okay, now let's talk about a bougie brand. Do I love this palette? No. Is it good? It's good. It's really good. I'm talking about Tom Ford, but I can never justify the price. And this is the Nude Dip palette from Tom Ford. And oh my god, open. And this is more of like a very neutral gray tone palette. And you know, I don't love my grays, but if I'm going for like a cool tone gray color story, this is the palette that I dip for, because you know, because it's Tom Ford. And these have like a beautiful sheen on the eyes. So if you want to like look expensive without looking like glittery sparkly the way I'm looking right now, you cannot steer me away from the glitter and the sparkles, just because it's not glitter, it's sparkles. This is Adept Minka. This is the shade Nora, this beautiful bronze shade, on top of another palette that I'm going to talk about in today's video. But going back to Tom Ford, this definitely, Nude Dip is definitely like my cool tone palette, my favorite cool tone palette in my collection. I would say gray tone, my favorite gray tone palette in my collection. Okay, now let's talk about MAC Cosmetics. And I feel like MAC is definitely gone like on a backseat, but my favorite MAC palette is definitely this one, with this Nude Model palette by MAC Art Library. For like an everyday look, this is perfect. These mattes just blend so nicely with each other. Is it like anything unique? No. But do these perform beautifully? Yes. If I'm like going to India and if I am like around like my people who are not used to seeing me with like a lot of makeup, then I generally pull up this palette, because this is like neutral but wearable at the same time without being like all around, like all across the face. Now, do I care? No. But like 8 to 10 years before, would I care? Yes, absolutely. Then I would just wear this. Okay, now let's talk about Huda Beauty. Undoubtedly, my favorite palette from Huda Beauty is this Mercury Retrograde palette. This has colors in a wearable format and it creates such variety of eye looks. This is definitely my favorite palette that she's come out with. These mattes blend beautifully. Again, the shimmers are so spectacular. They're different kind of shimmers, like taupery shades, thick shimmer shades, but all of them look so elegant on the eyes. This definitely is like one of my favorite palettes in my collection. I actually wore like this shade Nabla in the office. I really dare to wear like these kind of shades to like office, because I wear mostly like neutral tones, but it was such a pretty look. I didn't go like all out with it. I tapped all across the eyelid with some mattes in the crease in the outer corners, and it looked so pretty, like such a pretty cool tone look. I love it. I love this. Okay, now let's talk about Anastasia Beverly Hills. I have a lot of palettes from ABH, but I've not like recently purchased the recent palettes, like the Rose Metals palette or the Nouveau palette. I just didn't feel the color story that much. But if I have to talk about Anastasia palettes, this undoubtedly is like my favorite palette that I have, and this is the Jackie Aina palette. I have used and abused this palette so much. Like, look at the shades, how much I've used this. If I have to wear this palette, I'll be so excited, because these tones are so pretty. If I have to like create a palette, I feel like most of these shades would be in that palette, because this is such a beautiful color story. I love Lituation, I love Credit, I love the shade Ginger, I love Zam, I love Wigglies. Oh my god, this is so pretty. And I love Big Wig and Pinker. It's so pretty. All these shades in the palette is so pretty. I definitely want to go back to this palette. If you want to see like get ready with me with like the old makeup that I have in my collection, I'll definitely pull this out. Okay, now let's talk about Artist Couture. This palette was really good. I have used again this palette in and out of my life all the time, especially for office looks. This is their first palette that they came out with, and this is their Supreme Nudes palette. Now they've come out with a lot of palettes after this, but I've heard like not great things about it. But I love this palette. Like, this has definitely been like a good performing palette in my collection. Am I like wowed by this? No. But the mattes were really good. The shimmers were like okay, but these shimmers are not for like glittery sparkly soul. This is like smooth shimmers on the eyes. So if you are more into like an everyday look and you want smooth shimmers, this palette is really good, I would say. Again, this leans a little bit more towards like warm tones. So if you are into warm tones, again, the packaging is sleek, it's elegant. I really love the packaging. How like thin it is, it's really pretty. Okay, now let's talk about Iconic London. Do I love this palette? No. Do I reach for it a lot? No. But whenever I'm reaching for it, I create some beautiful tones. And this is their Sunset to Sunrise palette. This palette is expensive, around like $60-65, I would say. And this has some beautiful like summer tone eyeshadows. I really love this neon yellow. Not that I wear neon yellows a lot. The bronzy tones are perfect, but I really love these tones are the tones that I do not have in my collection. So that is the reason why I dip into this. But whenever I'm dipping into this, it has some smooth shimmers. I really like it. I love the shade Sandstorm Beach Bronze. Again, I'm a bronzy person. I love it. I love Bikini Babe here. I love Heat Wave for like an orangey copper look. Really pretty. So yeah, out of the iconic London palettes, I would say this is my favorite. Okay, now let's talk about Nabla. I love really a lot of eyeshadow palettes that I've tried from Nabla. Their mattes are like my absolute favorite. But if you want to like dive into Nabla and if you love this color story, I feel like you'll never be disappointed with this palette. And this is the Nabla Cutie palette in the shade Wild Berry. These are like my tones. I love burgundy purples on my eyes, and this is such a good variety. I would say such a good variety. Like I would have absolutely loved it if this shade was something else. This is like more of a smooth shimmer. I would have loved if this was like this shade matte. I feel like that would be perfect, like absolutely perfect. But I love all of it. I really love. There is a place for this shadow also. Like if you want like a satin smooth look, not out there, I feel like this and this, that's it. It just calls out for that. But if you want like those iridescent, this is like a sparkly iridescent shade. So pretty. It has a blue sheen to it. And this is such a beautiful topper, and these mattes are amazing. I love Nabla mattes. I definitely feel like Nabla mattes are very comparable to Natasha Denona mattes. I really love Nabla mattes. They're more like a creamy matte formula. Love it. Now the three brands that I have to talk about are like my favorite brands. I would actually, a lot of these are favorites. Okay, now let's talk about Melt. I have tried like 3 palettes from Melt as of now, and out of the lot I feel like all of them have like great color story, but this is the color story that I reach out for the most out of the Melt palettes that I have in my collection. And I'm talking about the normal Gemini palette, the original Gemini palette. I am not a big green person, but this palette is like half green, half neutral. The neutral is stunning. This is the palette that I have on my eyes. I've like created several looks actually on this channel using these neutral tones. And these neutrals are the neutrals that I have on my eyes. They're beautiful tones of browns. I love it. And these greens, these are the greens that I really like. I like those grungy greens. Not in like my everyday life, but because of these browns, I could not. Like, I love this section till here. This is really good on the lower lash line. I dare to wear this on my crease. I've never tried this on my crease, but apart from that, I've used every other shade and I really love it. I definitely want to dip into that shade. For one of the looks, I would say, I think that this is perfect for summer and fall. I really love this palette. Although saying Gemini 2 is also really beautiful because I love my rosy tones. I don't know what to choose. I really don't know because I go back and forth between Gemini 2 and Gemini. Like, it is what it is. Okay, now let's talk about Pat McGrath. Out of the Pat McGrath palettes that I have in my collection, I don't dislike any Pat McGrath that I have in my collection, but if I'm going for like a Pat McGrath look, I'm definitely dipping into the Bronze Seduction palette that I have. These special tones are really special. These mattes are really spectacular. I really love this palette. I definitely dip into those like special shades. You've seen me like a lot of times use this palette, and my favorite mattes out of this palette is definitely this. I really love those 2 shades. I feel like out of the whole palette, the shades that I don't use is her normal shimmers. So this one and this one. It's not that it doesn't perform. It feels like for these tones, I don't like reach out for this palette because I had these tones in my like other collection. But for like special shades, I will definitely pick out this palette. Like, look at those special shades. But for those special shades, it's so pretty. Like, let me just show you. Like, the special shades definitely are like outstanding, but the regular shimmers are like okay, I would say. Like, that's the difference. Like, these are the special shades, these are like the regular shimmers. You definitely can see the difference. But I reach out for this palette so much, especially for my glamorous looks. I really topped that special shade all across my eyelid, and I feel like super, super special. So definitely out of the lot, I feel like Bronze Seduction is my favorite. Now let's talk about a palette which I have used and abused so much during this year, and I have to talk about my favorite Natasha Denona palette that I have in my collection, and I cannot stop using this because whatever looks I create out of this palette is truly, truly special. So last, certainly not the least, I'm going to talk about my dream palette. This truly, I feel like Natasha made it for me because this is perfect in every angle for me. Like, I love my purpley tone neutrals, and this has like special aspects. It has warm tones, it has cool tones, it has neutral tones, it has one like beautiful multi-chrome, and these purpley tones are really, really good. This black is outstanding. This brown is spectacular. This shade is beautiful for everyday look. I love the shade Babies. Each and every shade that is in this palette is truly worth using and mentioning. There's no one shade in this palette that is a dud. For that reason, my favorite Natasha Denona palette is my dream palette, and I love it. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Do let me know in the comment section below which is your favorite high-end palette, like top 3 high-end palettes that you have in your collection. I am really curious to find that out. But yes, but that's all for today, guys. If you did like it, you know what to do. Do give it a thumbs up, and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so that you're notified every time that I post next. I generally upload 3 videos every single week, every Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at 9 AM Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.